Hello, how you doing? Today we're going to talk about a little bit about the evolution of MMA. Because I hear a lot of people always talking about, especially these last couple of years, about how MMA has gone over popularity over boxing here in America. And basically, you know, boxing is still the top tier as far as skill level. These guys are at the highest skill level. MMA fighters are still not at that level of skill. The guys who are at the level of skill where you need to be are the guys who are dominating. Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, these type of cats, Frankie Edgar. These are people who have skill in striking, because it's coming to a striking sport. That's the evolution of MMA. The years of the wrestlers and the grapplers, that's over with. And frankly, these guys here, basically like your Tito Ortizes, you know what I'm saying, your Matt Hugheses, they're very lucky that they came into the sport early in the sport, or they wouldn't be legends like they are now, because they don't have the skill striking to be able to compete. The sport was, as we look at the history of MMA, when MMA first came out, of course you had a lot of strikers, and you had, the grapplers, you know what I'm saying, and the strikers coming out had the more advantage. They have more skill striking, but they didn't have any type of experience in wrestling, takedowns, or defending themselves on the ground. And then this is the advantage. They would go out and they would beat the crap out of, these grapplers, these Gracies and stuff like that for 5-6 minutes, and then eventually one of these Gracies would grab them and get them to the ground, and then after that they were like fish out of water, and then they get submitted. And then it became a myth that strikers, that this wasn't even effective martial arts, that the only effective martial arts were wrestling and grappling. So all the flood of wrestlers came in. American wrestlers come in, which are these big, strong, great athletes, you know what I'm saying, but have no skill striking, but they felt they didn't need to, because all they would do is, of course, would go in wrestling, take people down, and then it was the ground and pound. And this is where ground and pound became a skill, which is not so much a skill, like I said, but either way, that's for a different discussion. But anyway, so you had all these wrestlers come in, and it was dominated by wrestling and grappling. It was MMA. So basically, the myth went out that the striking arts, you know what I'm saying, Kung Fu, Karate, even Muay Thai, these types of things, kickboxing, didn't work. Boxing didn't work into the MMA. This was for the wrestlers and the strikers, the grapplers and the people of submissions. Well, as the evolution came on, these grapplers and of course a lot of the strikers and stuff started getting into MMA, and they realized, okay, so they needed to step up their game, you know what I'm saying? So I needed to learn at least wrestling, or at least defend myself against takedowns. I need to learn grappling, or at least defend myself when I'm on the ground on my back. And they learn that, because that's the easiest to learn. Okay, that's the easiest to learn, easiest to become more effective, easier to learn how to defend is wrestling and grappling. If you're teaching a little kid and you're teaching them how self-defense, and you're teaching them MMA, you would start with wrestling and grappling. It's just an easier thing to teach. It's an easier thing to learn. It's very easy to be effective in it. That's why people have done it. Don't get me wrong, it's effective, but it's easy to learn, easy to become effective, but also it becomes easier to defend. And that's what's happening. Everybody now has learned how to wrestle. Everybody's learned how to grapple. Everybody's learned how to submit and stuff like that. Everybody's learned how to defend themselves. So therefore, these wrestlers and the grapplers have no more advantage, because everybody's learning that, and it's easy to defend that. So now this is what we're seeing. We're seeing MMA go to where boxing is. A lot of stand-up guys, and they can't strike, so therefore they're out there whipping at each other. Then they end up into a clinch and stuff like that. Either one can get the advantage, because basically you've taken the advantage down when you go to wrestling, because both of them can do it. We both can wrestle, we both can grapple. We're going to see who can get the dominant position. I'm not going to let you, you're not going to let me, so we end up striking and we can't strike. So we're ending up in these boring fights of late. Just like boxing, until you see someone who can really strike, of Anderson Silva, and like I said, or George St. Pierre, people who have learned to strike and have some real skill. And that's where their advantage is. And if Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre are 8 and 9s in skill. The rest of MMA on an average is at a 5 and a 4. I mean, it just shows you like legends of Forrest Griffin, who's a legend, who is a hellified warrior, you know what I'm saying, and has learned how to strike. And the only thing that has learned him how to strike is he's learned to mix it high, low, and he mixes it up pretty well. But other than that, his speed, his skill is very minimal. But you see just him just learning how to do it and just getting off, learning how to mix up his thing, he's become dominant, you know what I'm saying, but still at low level skill, like I said. So the evolution is going to be basically, they're going to have to step their game up. They're going to have to really learn how to get some real skill in striking, and to get some real skill in striking, that means doing some real deep training in boxing and karate and kung fu and these things that have been, you know, mythed as, oh, they don't work. No, that's just because you haven't taken the time to really learn these applications and these skills. You've just taken time to learn these basic things to just get a dominant position over somebody. It's very, like I said, and you're seeing now that's not working. You have to step your game up, like I said. So that's the key of MMA now. If you want to become a star, you have to learn to become skillful at striking. You know what I'm saying? You always practice your wrestling, your takedowns, your defense. You're always practicing your grappling. You're always practicing your grappling defense. But when it comes down, if you're going to be a star, if you're going to make something happen, you're going to have to learn to strike. And until some of these MMA fighters really learn some of these other arts and really start to develop some type of skill striking, this is what's going to happen to MMA. It's going to be a bunch of fights, boring fights with two guys out there standing swinging at each other who don't even have skill, where at least in boxing, if the guys are out there, maybe they're a little timid, but at least these guys have skill and showing some skill, you know, getting some contact. But MMA is just two brutes going at each other, you know what I'm saying, just swinging with you know, two blind men swinging at each other. Until they develop some skill, this is how it's going to be. And Anderson Silva and these types of guys are going to dominate until somebody comes up and they really train deeply in some striking arts and really learn to develop some real skill in these striking arts. Like I said, no disrespect to, you know what I'm saying, the MMA fighters that are out there, because you're all warriors just for getting in the ring and being able to stand up and just have the guts to do it. But at the same time, this is the game. This is where the game is, and if you're going to be the best and if you're going to do something, you better step it up. Like I said, and most of these MMA guys are not, because they already have like what they call, what is already out there, that meathead mentality. You're just there to try to bruise and bowl over, you know, that wrestling meathead. It's just not working, you know what I'm saying, and it's about to fall off. And all these guys that don't do that, you're just going to end up at the wayside. Okay, you're going to be at the wayside and you're going to be called a pretender, like I said. So therefore, the game needs to step up, or MMA is going to become very, very stagnant, like I said, as it started to do right now. And I would love to hear some comments out there of all you pro, you know what I'm saying, MMA guys that I know are out there that is going to be ready to defend, you know, the wrestlers and the grapplers, especially because I said it's easier to learn these types of arts, which is, that's just a pure fact. That's just a pure fact that it's easier to learn grappling arts and wrestling arts than it is to strike. If you learn from good teachers and you practice diligently, grappling arts, you can, you know what I'm saying, in wrestling arts, 2-3 years, you can have that down. You could practice training striking diligent with a good teacher for 10 years and still not have good proficient. It just takes a lot more skill, a lot more coordination, a lot more athletic ability, like I said. So, I mean, it's getting to that. It's harder, but they need to step up. And that's my blog today about the evolution of MMA. Please give me comments on what you feel and if you disagree or if you agree, so we can get some good talking. Then we can get these fighters up and we can get these people and the MMA to that level where it really needs to be. Alright? Have a good day.